Hello, everyone, and welcome to Vex Warfield. I am Vex, your host. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit more about the connections made throughout, well, reality. Let me go ahead and lower this volume a little bit. There we go. Like I said, we're going to dive into how everything is connected. I mean, we've done this before. I mean, any of you who are repeat viewers will understand this. But for those of you who are new, this is something I like to dive into and show the connections between different things that have happened and the things that would happen in the past, or how it's connected into the hey bro with deck. Hey wizard, good to see you. And tonight it also goes along the lines. Hey Carolyn, good to see you. It also goes along the lines of course, vibrations, frequency, you know, all the general stuff that I love talking about. And we're going to go ahead and throw the link out immediately. I'm going to get it up into the YouTube chat for open panel night. Oh, I forgot to put that on the description thing. But we'll go ahead and throw this out here. See if we might be able to get a couple of fish to bite. Come on up here and talk. Because I could sit here and go on about it all night, but quite frankly, it's much more fun when I have interaction with them. Because who knows, maybe I forgot something, or left something out, or didn't address something. I mean, other people using them as sounding boards could be a great thing. And real quick, let me know if my audio is stable enough, guys. All right. And it's pinned. Thank you very much, Carolyn. Hey, Susanna. Good to see you. All right. Like I said, we're talking about all the different things connected and whatever questions you guys might have. I mean, I'm not a know-it-all, but I'll do my best for it. One of the things that I would like to do, actually, I'm thinking about going ahead and doing it on a Friday night. Might be best to do it on a Monday night just because I might have better traffic with people. But it isn't suggested. It has been suggested that we try. Here, I'll take a step back and tell you a little, about what I'm thinking here, or what has been proposed. One night on Coast to Coast. Hopefully you're all familiar with that show. It comes on usually, midnight Central on the radio. And George Norrie hosted. And way back when Texas was getting, hit with hurricane flood, right? He took one night and told all his listeners to pray, or concentrate, meditate, whatever worked for them. They concentrated on one single hurricane because it was on its way in. And he had them all focus on turning that hurricane away from land. And so he led a prayer or meditation, whatever you would like to refer to as, on the air, live. And had everybody focus on one thing. Like I said, moving that hurricane away from land. And that hurricane did not touch land. It was, I believe it was supposed to hit land by like noon the next day or something like that, and it did not do it. Now, this is kind of what I would like to try. maybe we could go for something, real simple as just a peaceful day or a peaceful night or, peaceful 24 hours, something like that. Have everybody concentrate on, focusing on, well, I guess the simplistic way to put it would be, peace on earth. Now, hello, Conspiracy Queen.
Hey Vex, what's up? Good evening, everybody.
Well, I'm just going and filling in people in what I want to do with either next Friday I do my show or the next Monday. Probably most likely the
Okay.
next. Basically, getting everybody to meditate, pray on one single thing, something real simple and easy to do, like just general peace on earth or looking for non-aggression, something along those lines, and just try a little experiment. Now, I know my viewers aren't large or anything like that, but I have confidence in the viewers that I do have are pretty damn, well, would say strong-willed. So I figure we could probably do something that might impact.
I mean, I absolutely agree with that. When we had, I think it was in 2019, in September of 2019, when we had Hurricane Dorian come through,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of us, like I'm talking, probably close to 300,000 people, okay,
Mm-hmm.
were actively focused on this thing not devastating the U.S. Now, unfortunately, um, it's still, really, really, really tragically impacted I think it was the Caribbean, one of the islands in the Caribbean. Completely devastated that island. And I think it was all of the focused energy that basically kept this monster. I think if I remember right, that was a Cat 5. And it sat over top of those islands for days, stagnant.
Yeah.
And they don't usually do that, but there was a lot of intent, a lot of prayer, and a lot of energy, I think, kind of fighting between prayer and what they were doing, the tools that they were utilizing to feed that machine, because they were absolutely feeding that machine.
Hey, Nate, good to see you. Yeah, I wholly believe that our focus really can change things. And I wasn't quite where I am now whenever I was listening to George Norrie basically get his his radio listeners to join him in this. And I was just, hey, it's actually an interesting experiment. I'm going to see what happens. So I paid attention. And yeah, like I said, that particular hurricane that they focused on from land and went out. And I went, And like I said, this was like around the beginning of my really looking deep on my own spirituality. So, and I had just started learning Reiki and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, this is good. I can learn from this. And and if you've known me for very long, you know that I want to know everything. So, yeah, I was really interested in this little experiment that he did, and it got turned away. And I remember thinking that next day, going, I wish I had enough viewers and stuff like that on YouTube to get together to do something along those same lines. And like I said, most of the people who do like to watch my shows are really good people and good brains and just like I said, really good people. So, and I don't think I'd have too much of a problem trying to get others to join in with me on this. Striker and Scrimshaw, we were all three talking about it and wanting to do this. And I thought it was an awesome idea, and I can't believe I haven't tried it before.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because like right after you came on, actually I'd say it was maybe not even 10 minutes, dude, for real. I'd have to go back and look at the, I guess, timestamp of when I put it in there, but I was wanting to get a hold of Rose, and this kind of was the perfect vehicle. It's like literally you came on and it popped and she came. So there's definitely something to do with this. I'm pretty sure you know, being the savvy researcher that you are, have already ran across the, I think it was like a group think tank of a bunch of scientists, scholars, and all that stuff that did the energy study with the tulpa.
Yeah, I haven't do it. Go ahead and tell us more about it.
Okay, so this was a bunch of basically scientists that were bordering on like the paranormal kind of stuff. And they were genuinely curious about energy and intent and focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they literally wrote up, they spent a couple of months, if I'm not mistaken. The way the story goes is they were trying to create a thing, a person, just with the intent of thought. They wrote down, spent many weeks trying to basically create, a personality for this person, a physical visage for this person, like what they look like, their hobbies, their interests. I mean, it was literally like crafting a character out of a novel. And they continued to meditate and pray and focus and whatever with the energy, and they materialized a being with all of those little qualities and all of that stuff. And they gave him a name. And it was the wildest story I'd ever read about anything like that. But it was the manifestation of thought into reality.
Exactly.
Now, that's a lot of energy. That's a lot of direction, a lot of very careful deliberating on what they were going to do, right? Because as we know, what you pray or what you focus on can certainly impact what you experience and do. And
effect on everyone around you.
Absolutely. So I think it was a very, very wild, I mean, this kind of ties in perfectly, right? But I mean, they spent months communicating with this thing. And it was a documented study. It's very, very, very wild. If y'all get some time to look into it, if you will. I can't remember the guy's name that they made up for this entity, but that's what it's called. It's called a tulpa, Tulpa. And
seeing if I can have something to show everyone.
Yeah, all right.
Okay. I have here. I'll go ahead and throw this link out into the chat. This is what I found right off the bat. Seems like it's a dead ringer on it. All right. This is what this is. A tulpa is an entity created in the mind, acting independently of and parallel to your own consciousness. They are able to think and have their own free will, emotions, and memories. In short, a tulpa is like a sentient person living in your head, separate from you. It is currently unproven whether or not tulpas are truly sentient, but in this community, we treat them as such. It takes time for a tulpa to develop a convincing and complex personality. As they grow older, as they grow older, your attention and their life's experiences will shape them into a person with their own hopes, dreams, and beliefs. It's just that little what is a tulpa?
Now, it was very interesting in this case because, like I said, they spent months crafting what this being was going to be. And they had several different interactions with it. And that's the crazy part, too, is that once something is basically like manifested like that, right? Because that's what they were going for, was a sentient, energy being. Is you can't just get rid of it. There's no getting rid of it. And for them, it was embodied outside of their physical or their inner mind, right? It actually had substance to it. And
it became real.
Yeah, it became real. That was the craziest thing. It's like they literally created an imaginary friend.
Yes. Thought manifestation in conjunction with several souls together can make something happen. This is something that I've been trying to tell everyone as much as possible. The human potential is unmeasurable. Now, the whole thing about this is excluding the creator and just going from our experiences. Excuse me. Throughout time, we have entrusted people like shamans and witch doctors and stuff like that to overwatch our spirituality. Well, in doing that, that gives them the control and takes the control away from the individual. Hey, Epstein, good to see you. And in them giving up their control, they lose their connection. And it can go through generations of lost knowledge, which we have been through as humans. But we have also held on to it and kept it into a everybody sees it as like the conspiracy theorist type of realm, or backwoods people think that stuff's possible, or voodoo, or whatever it's labeled as. It's turned into kind of like, oh, those are just crazy people, or new age hippies, or whatever the title was placed on it. Cybertoxin, good to see you.
Right. And it's like a fringe school of thought. And that's why I said, very specifically, this was a group of like scientists that were looking towards like paranormal events and instances. And that's what made it, that's what stood out, was the fact that, this was a big deal.
A very big deal.
Very big deal.
Yeah, if this got to just mainstream common knowledge, then it would blow people's minds. And even if people saw it happen before them, they wouldn't accept it. I mean, that's one of the problems we have. The indoctrination that we've all been through is very strong. Now, we are certain types of people that can see through different propagandas, but we still get inundated by it. Now, this is something that has been keeping our minds closed towards the supernatural, towards the spiritual. There are many different, it's been relegated as a Hollywood type of show instead of something real. It's kind of like, a good example would be like the circuses and freak shows and stuff like that used to travel the countryside. They don't do that no more because they don't want that stuff. They don't want people thinking past a certain level. So whenever I tell you that people have such potential for healing, for just healing alone. I mean, not to mention things like telekinesis, telepathy, and things of that nature. That is all within reach of everyone. Everyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My little cousin, case in point, right? And this is like a personal validation for that. My little cousin was a medical anomaly in our family. She had has spina bifida. And, this was my aunt and uncle's, ended up being my aunt and uncle's only child. And she went through doing everything she possibly could, did everything right, ate healthy, was in good health when they got pregnant. And, I think it was about the fourth or fifth month that she had the sonogram done. They found that, my cousin had spina bifida, and she had what it's classified as is basically like open spots that are along the spinal cord that can lead to many negative outcomes for, viable life. And my aunt had a prayer group. As soon as she found this out, like, she went nuts. She is the original researcher of our family. And she went, every route that she could to find information on this, to find prayer groups, right? Because that's the base that we have is, God-centered.
Right.
And it was through the prayer group. This was over 100,000 people online. And they prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. And she had one of the first, dozen surgeries that was a new, groundbreaking procedure that was actually done by Ben Carson.
Oh, really?
Yes. Who is a very, very well-known pediatric neurosurgeon, brain surgeon.
Right.
And the picture that they ended up putting on the front of the Time Life magazine for 99 was my cousin. They did a procedure where they basically operated on my little cousin in utero. They put in shunts to drain the spinal fluid from her head, because that's something else that they deal with, is something called hydrocephaly. And it's basically a fancy way of saying water on the brain. And they closed up those openings in her back. And, she literally became the family's miracle baby. The doctors told my aunt, something all mothers are dreading, with all of these appointments, that there's something wrong with our baby. And, the doctor gave a very, very unfavorable prognosis for my cousin's life. And, it was at that point that my aunt basically rolled up her sleeves and said, you got to give God room to work, man.
Mm-hmm.
And she prayed on it. We prayed on it as a family. Thousands and thousands of other people prayed on it. And that child is a wonder. She is literally a wonder. She is a joy. She is a light in this world. And, she's a testament to faith and to, overcoming a negative thought, a negative prognosis.
Yeah. The
So there's
negativity that was put forth.
absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah, there's absolutely a lot of room. If we put God in there and we give him the room to work, man, there ain't nothing he can't do.
become a conduit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that with something personal. As a matter of fact, this happened about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it happened today. What happened today was my right lung or my left lung collapsed. Seriously. I felt the pain,
Whoa.
lightheaded, all the same stuff that happened before. Now, if you don't know, I've had a history of my lungs collapsing. As a matter of fact, my lung collapsed, well, twice on the right, twice on the left. But now I can actually say 3 times on the left, 3 times on the right now. Because about 2 to 3 weeks ago, it collapsed before. Now, if it had stayed collapsed, I would have had to go into the hospital and deal with all the stuff that goes along with going to the hospital nowadays. But I won't go to a hospital. So what I did was, I did over 2 weeks ago and today. When I felt it coming on, and it was coming on, I basically sat down and meditated and concentrated on healing. I happened to be at work at the time, and I had to stop and sit down and focus, and basically used Reiki on myself. Now, really, I don't like getting all personal like this because I don't want people to throw sympathy at me. I don't need sympathy. I want you to take it as it is, that you can do this too. And all you have to do is focus on good. That's all. Good intentions, be a conduit for energy. And you can heal. You can do many things. You just have to practice. Now, I'm a fledgling when it comes to doing Reiki. So I'm in a very upbeat mood right now because it worked for me. It works. And like I said, I'm one of the low people on it. I'm just learning this stuff right now, but it works. Now, I've used this YouTube channel to basically convey a lot of experiences that I've had through my life. This will be no different. If you want to do this, you want to do the same thing that I did, you can. All you have to do is learn how to quiet your mind and focus. That doesn't seem so, far-fetched, does it?
No, not at all.
It's just like what you're saying, manifestation. It's the same thing. The very same thing. People want to say, it's goofy and all that stuff, and I sound like some kind of flower power child or something like that. But really, I'm not. I mean, if you had known me, growing up all through my life, you would know that I'm not some kind of new age hippie type. Yeah, sure, I smoke every once in a while, but I am very kind of a serious person unless, it's appropriate to be funny. But otherwise, I'm just basically a very serious person. I'm very business oriented and, take care of work first, then I can play. That type of attitude. I've always had a good work ethic, that type of person. So in letting my mind wander and helping myself to center myself has brought me to this point to where now I can actually try and help others to do the same thing that I've done, that it's taken me damn near 50 years to do. And that's find my center. And it is, you don't discount what's all around you, as in your emotions and stuff. Don't throw them away. They're a part of you. They're a part of who you are. Use them as you see fit. Don't let them use you. Centering yourself includes getting a rein on yourself and knowing yourself. Now, like I said, I've spent, pretty much 50 years doing this. I did it the long way. Didn't have much choice, didn't have anybody around that could teach me any of this stuff. But now I have access to people who know a few things. So now, once I get a handle on it, I can pass it along to you guys. And I want everybody to be healthy, and that means mind, body, and soul. And I'm sorry if I keep on harping on this, but I am just so happy this worked, that I can do it for others. You know what I mean? It's there. It's there, just waiting for us to tap into it. And I also believe that it is pretty much unlimited. At least my initial investigations into it, it seems like it's just unlimited. And that ties in with what you were saying before about manifestation of a being complete with personality that they came up with. They discussed it with, well, I think he should have this color hair. I think he should have this color eyes. I think he should act like this when he's afraid. I think he should act like this, when, he's happy. These people sat down and discussed it and manifested it. That's huge. And it just furthers my point that you guys can do it. You can. I think I'm going to have to start a new night, meditation night or something. But I don't think people want to sit there and do that. They'll end up going to sleep. All right.
Or they could possibly come to a new, deeper understanding of themselves. Like what I said with that shadow work. It's balancing both sides of your personality, yourself, you. They call some of those, I think, what is it? It's it's where you think of something like you're in a certain situation, and say you're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off, and then the naughtier side of you imagines getting out of the car with them in front of you and then just going over to them and smacking them in the face, right? For their stupidity.
Yeah.
But it comes down to understanding that it's not a reflection of who you are so much as it's to a certain degree a natural kind of reaction to something. It doesn't make you a psychopath that you want to literally get out and smack people.
Right.
It's just a momentary thing. Yeah, it's a momentary thing.
All right, real quick, we got somebody called Jake. Join. Welcome, Jake.
Yo, what's up? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Cool, man. What's happening?
Yeah, talking about things that the potential of the human spirit, the human soul.
So what are some of those potentials? I just joined the conversation late, so I really have no background or context. Maybe I should have listened for a while before I clicked link to join.
Yeah, that's no problem. Essentially, I was relaying some information. Conspiracy Queen was telling us a story about manifestation. A group of people, scientists, got together, decided on several different things about a person, a made-up person. They essentially sat down and talked about it and made up a person. This person should have, blue eyes, black hair, 6 foot tall. Okay, his personality should be happy, but not overly happy. Basically fleshing out a made-up person. Then they focused on it and manifested it over several weeks, months. I don't remember if it was months or not. Conspiracy Queen, do you remember?
Yeah, I think it was they deliberated for several months on what this character, person, entity was going to be, who they were, how they behaved, all of those kinds of qualities. And over many months of, all of that very careful crafting, and then a few more months, they basically directed all of their thought and energy and created a being out of thin air, literally out of thin air. It was capable of speech. It had.
So what do you mean by, sorry, let me ask you a question. So like, what do you mean, like, so all of a sudden, like, there's a basket, there's nobody in the basket, then all of a sudden, due to this manifestation, a being appeared in this basket?
Basically, that's the best way to put it. Yes, it had form, it had substance, it looked like a normal person. It was something that they could touch.
And when did this happen?
This was many decades ago, and it was.
Do you have any like documentation or any links or anything that you can like?
Yeah, I'm throwing one in now.
Okay, cool.
This is one of the first ones that came up. I looked up Tulpa, Tulpa. This is basically, there's the link for it in the chat. And yeah, like I said, this is just the first thing I pulled up when I typed it in. So you can find actually lots of stuff if you just type in Tulpa.
Yeah, I see it. I mean, it's a concept, right? I mean, it's an idea.
Right.
Right. I mean, cool. Like I'm not here to dispute anybody. I don't have any knowledge or background in Tulpa, and I don't know anything about what you're talking about. For me, I find it hard to believe that there was a spontaneous combustion of life, I guess.
I love it. A skeptic. Here, let me go find the link. I'll be right back.
Due to manifestation. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's it's outside of the norm. Kim, at least we agree upon that.
Oh yeah. I mean, in today's society, that's considered crazy. I'm right with you on that. I get you, and that's perfectly normal. But we're not really, in kind of normal times anymore.
Well, I think we are within normal, like, within the laws of physics, like within like physics, like we're within normal physical times. I think within society, we're not within normal times, within the concept of society or within the ideologies of individual belief systems, and the polarization that we see within modern day society isn't quote unquote normal times. But I think with everything within, physical laws is still within normal times.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Outside of, I believe our reality is popped, but that's a different discussion. One of the things I was also relaying to everyone is my personal experience. My personal experience happened actually today, which is one of the reasons why I was so happy to come online and do a show tonight. I have a history of my lungs collapsing. It's called spontaneous pneumothorax.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been in the hospital. They've stuck tubes in my chest and basically got the air out of the cavity in my chest and repumped up my lungs. I've been through it 4 times within a hospital and times without a hospital. And this is one of the things that I was talking about earlier as far as it attached to the manifestation and basically the potential of the human soul. And what happened was while I was at work today, and also it happened about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Same thing, I was at work. And 2 to 3 weeks ago, it was right lung. It collapsed. And what I did was I immediately um, stopped what I was doing and controlled my breathing. Basically, went into meditative state and used my knowledge of Reiki, which is healing, becoming a conduit for healing energy. And I'm relatively new at this. I'm just now learning spiritual. She's my teacher, and essentially my lungs are back to normal capacity now. I didn't need to go into the hospital to get pumped up. I did it myself.
So
And that's what
you
I
were
find
sitting,
so miraculous.
right? So like you were sitting home and you experienced I believe you call it a pneumothorax. Is that correct?
Yeah, spontaneous thorax.
Yeah.
Yes.
So a spontaneous pneumothorax, and you used the technique of Reiki to be able to reverse that spontaneous pneumothorax without
Yes.
having to go in to have that issue resolved.
Yes.
So, may I ask, just from my own curiosity, how did you diagnose that it was a pneumothorax? Because if you didn't get an X-ray on your lungs, I mean, could you not have had I'm just going to use things like, could you have had like some heartburn? Could you have had some
Well, that's a good
chest
question.
pain that where you think that the symptoms may have been similar to what you've experienced in the past, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, but it
Yeah.
turned out that it may have been something else and not actually a spontaneous pneumothorax, and maybe it was something else. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, that's valid. If I was listening to somebody say the same thing, I'd want to know that too. Yeah,
Because I
basically it
think
was.
like if you went to the doctor and if they said, hey Vex, you have a spontaneous pneumothorax and this is our treatment options, and you're like, nope, I'm going to go home and I'm going to use Reiki and I'm going to focus my attention and resolve this using natural healing, and then you resolved it, as opposed to self-diagnosis to say, hey, I think this may be a spontaneous tension pneumothorax, whatever the term is, and
Yeah.
and then claiming that it was resolved based off of Reiki.
Yeah,
Right?
it could be a false thing where I could have had like indigestion, like you said, and misdiagnosed it, and the indigestion went, I did it. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, your skepticism is wise. And quite frankly, before I started diving into this myself, I would probably be even more skeptical than you are right now.
Mm-hmm. But the question is, do I believe in manifestation? Absolutely. Have I manifested things in my life? Absolutely. There's been times I've sat down and I have completed a task or was in the process of completing a task, and I manifested the outcome. And I was so confident in my mind in that moment that the outcome would be XYZ, and it actually turned out to be XYZ against all odds, right? So there is something within that relationship between performing, creating, completing, your, like, for every action there's an opposite and equal reaction if you look at the laws within a physical world. And I think that if you go into something with like positive intentions, like good intentions, and you think throughout that entire process, like, my goal is this, my plan is this, I want the outcome to be this is going to be the end result. And if you truly believe that, and it doesn't mean that it's going to happen every time, but I think if you're consistent with that type of belief system, that type of thought process, that eventually something's going to manifest, right? Like, something's going to happen. You're going to get the result that you want. And whether we can attribute that to that mental manifestation process, or whether it comes through hard work and dedication, or consistency, or just fine tuning your craft, whatever it is, ultimately you achieved what you set out to do. And I think with that positive mindset and that positive manifestation, that's going to help, as opposed to going into something with a lack of confidence or uncertainty.
Oh yeah, confidence is a good, a big part of it. I mean, if you do not believe it can happen, it won't happen. But if you believe it will happen, it will happen. And you could use it in, in the way of, like when you're a kid, and maybe you built models of old Chevy Novas and stuff like that.
Right.
You got it from the store, and you go, "Ooh, I'm not going to make it look like what's on the outside, but I'm going to make it look a little bit different, and make it look cool the way I like it." That type of thing, and it will manifest itself in that, because in building that model, I know whenever I was building models and stuff like that, I got in a zone, and while I was in that zone, it was a low grade meditation. I didn't know that then, obviously, but I know it now in hindsight. Excuse me. And oh, hey Veritas, good to see you. I don't remember if I said hi to you already or not, so there you go. Yeah, meditation and focus and picturing the outcome before. I mean, it's like the old Chinese kung fu movies where they're standing still for ages and ages and ages because they're going over the fight in their mind, and they have already concluded the fight before they've even started it. But and it's a little loose because you have two people, probably with opposing outcomes or possible opposing outcomes.
Right. Like the other criticism sometimes I hear with like the idea of like manifestation is that sometimes we want something to happen so much that we start to believe it, right? Like we put that lens on where we think that if I contribute ABC, the outcome will be, XYZ, whatever it is.
Right.
But I think sometimes that when you think of something over and over and over and over again, or if there's something new or a new concept or a new idea, then that's the things that you tend to notice. And I've experienced that before with like, if I went out tomorrow and bought a brand new pair of sneakers, I bought a brand new pair of like, I don't know, Adidas sneakers. For the next like 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to notice every person who owns Adidas sneakers, because now that's something that's present in my mind. That's something I'm tuned into. That's a lens that I'm wearing, because now it's like it's a new stimulation. So it's something that I kind of notice on a regular basis. And I think that when we live in a time where we get stuck into routine, we get stuck into the monotony of life, just things, and then we feel like, okay, I want to manifest something. I want to start to think about something new. I want to start to think about, I want to buy a brand new pair of sneakers next week, and I want to save my money, and these are the sneakers that I want. Then all of a sudden you start to like envision that, like you start to notice those things because that's what you think about constantly. So there may be some correlation between that type of thought process and the lens that we wear and the things that we notice. Or maybe there is something with that confidence piece that is constant. What's the term they use? Like affirmations, like that thought process over and over again. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. This is going to be the outcome. This is going to be the outcome. And you tell yourself that over and over and over again until that becomes such an important part of your life that that's all you focus on. And then you achieve it, right? So I'm not sure if it's some kind of like confirmation bias lens that we wear sometimes, or if it's actually due to the fact that we structure that and we build that confidence within our lives. And then that's how we see the end result at the end of the day.
Yeah, real quick. This is the link that Conspiracy Queen was going to throw in. Just throwing it in chat right now. Yeah, it's nationalparanormalsociety.org.
Right. Gotcha. You know what, dude? I ordered some food and I hear my bell going off. Unfortunately, I got to dip out of this conversation real quick, but thank you for having me on. Thank you for the discussion. And we'll chat again. I'll check out that link. And yeah, man, we'll chat again.
Excellent. I appreciate you coming up and hanging out with us.
Yeah, no worries.
You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right. That was pretty cool. Had a skeptic.
Yeah, and that's the fun part, right? Is, the recollections of, these things that just they are so phenomenal, you know, in comparison to what most of us perceive in our day-to-day basis, that something so simple as directed thought and intent and focus can create,
Yeah.
and I didn't remember like the whole backstory because it's been a number of years since I read about this story, but it goes into the first couple of paragraphs and outlines that it was a group of basically scientists that sat down and created an entity,
Hmm.
and they named him Philip. They gave him an entire backstory where he fell in love with a dark-haired gypsy girl and all of this stuff. And I mean, it was a really cool story, but at the end of it, it's still a wonderment, you know, that something like that can actually happen.
Yeah. But can you imagine what if we would have realized this as human beings a long time ago and kept it in the forefront to where we were passing it on through the generations? Can you imagine what storytelling would be like nowadays?
Can
Instead
you
of everything
imagine what reality would be like nowadays?
exactly, you would not need. I would not need to buy a guitar to play it. I would just make guitar sounds happen. I would tell a story and you would see it fold out before you, or it would unfold. It would be there for you to see because it would be able to manifest, and it would be, wait for it, creating a separate reality right then and there. Think about that. Creating a universe just like you're telling a story. I mean, essentially, that's kind of what happens when you get so engrossed in a book while you're reading it that you can't put it down, and it's all you think about. You don't even hear, the kids fighting in the next room. You're so engrossed in it. You just manifested a reality. Granted, it wasn't a powerful reality that other people could see, but you were there. I noticed you unmuted. Did you want to?
Yeah, I got a loud vehicle. I was waiting for it to pass by. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it ends up to be, is that with the passage of time, these kinds of connections were, I believe, intentionally lost. Right? That's how we lose. That's how we lose touch with our spiritual world. Is the world wants to deaden that, to tell us that it's not something that we can do. It's not something that we're capable of. And then to turn around and, see this study that happened in the 70s. It's been over 40 years since that came out.
Mm-hmm.
And with all of the things that we've dealt with, certainly in the last almost 2 years now, the ability to change these outcomes lies within every single one of us. The ability to influence what happens lies within every one of us. And
absolutely,
I think this is where, some of these ancient secrets and all of this hidden knowledge kind of comes really full circle, is to realize that, the powers that be, as it were, already knew all of this stuff. They already know all of it. They have a firm and studied grasp of all of this because they utilize it on a daily basis. Whereas the majority of the rest of us are not versed in how this works or how to do basically the same thing, how to be a force of, powerful good.
Yeah.
And they
Sorry.
use you're good. They use a lot of influence on us with, the propaganda, with even our own belief systems to create the outcomes that they want. Because most of us know that for the last almost 2 years, we have been speaking things into existence just by trying to figure out what's going on. What are we doing? What are we dealing with? What's going to happen next? And to
Inundated with
a bigger
probability.
point of that, yeah, to a bigger point to that, we are co-creating the reality that we're dealing with. And that's the biggest piece of the puzzle, is that each and every one of us has the ability to co-create, or in fact create and manifest the reality that we live in, just by thought, intent, prayer, balance. And it's something that they don't want us to realize. They don't want us to know.
Because
as you said, it does empower us. It could render all of these, toxic medications and pharmacia and all that other stuff powerless and useless, to understand that we can heal ourselves. We can, create the outcomes that we want, and create the life that we're living in, just with the power of our thought and our energy.
Yeah, right before my mother died, I was basically getting into this and learning about, I was trying to learn healing, because I've always wanted to be able to heal someone. And started learning about string theory and all this other stuff at the same time. And what I found was the probabilities. Probabilities in string theory are, anything can happen. It's just it's more likely for a certain outcome to happen instead of all these other outcomes. Well, that also goes into the multiverse theory. It also takes it to, what I touched on a little while ago when Jake was up here with, I believe our reality has fractured and we are in an actual different reality. Like I said, that's kind of a whole other show in itself. But since everything has shifted, it's almost enabled me to actually look at things in a different perspective. And it allowed me to understand certain fundamental things. And it's not, I say it's fundamental for the way I'm trying to convey my thoughts. It's like I said, there is an energy out there. I hate just calling it energy, because it's more than that. It's what the universe is within or without. Wait, no. The universe is within this energy. This universe is of this energy. And we are of it. So I say that it's vast and unlimited. I really do mean it's vast and unlimited. It's not that I've experienced it and, I'm a godlike being now. No, nothing like that. It's the fact that in science, if you find out one thing is true, that means that can either disprove other things or prove other things. And in learning what I've learned about healing, it validates so many other things that I was skeptical about, that it points towards this limitless energy. And that's why I say, over and over lately, that we have such potential. Because if I can tap into a fraction of it with my natural skepticism throughout my entire existence, you definitely do it. Like I said before, I didn't believe this stuff, before 5 to 6 years ago. I was Mr. Skeptic. I believed in science, and what can be proven, what is fact. Even the theories out there, I thought, yeah, they're theories. They might have some, but I didn't count them in. I only kept what we could prove. And that's why I get so excited about this stuff, because it's actually new to me. And it's also as true as the facts I've found in science. And we're talking about spiritual versus science. Now, just saying that alone, I've touched on it before on a previous live stream. All these different disciplines, psychology, sociology, physics, language arts, all this stuff should be combined into one discipline. And there's where we get our truth of life and existence. If we had the biologists and the scientists and then yeah, I'm drawing blanks on different
physicists and the theologists and all of them working together,
comparing notes.
In essence, basically saying that yes, energy by itself, it's limitless. Our world exists in energy. To that degree, even the aurora borealis that we see is in fact energy. It is, protons and electrons hitting our magnetosphere, creating energy that manifests itself into a light show. We're being bombarded every day with energy from, the universe, from the sun, from each other, from everything.
From the ground to the blades of grass and the mountains. And yes, literally everything. The only thing that seems to go a little silent are man-made things.
Because they don't have... Well, yeah, most of them do have their own frequency. Everything carries a frequency. We're in a, frequency energy universe. We're frequency energy beings. If that was not the case, then, other kinds of frequencies would not impact us. They wouldn't make us sick. They wouldn't heal us. They wouldn't, influence our thoughts, our health, our, repetitious patterns, our reality, as it were. But they do.
A virus without vibration or frequency is a dead virus. Think about that.
Absolutely. Even they have a frequency. Yeah, that's one of those, that little scientific tool, it's called a Rife box, comes into play. They've known for a long time that these things, have a frequency too. And if you utilize the frequencies within that Rife box, you essentially destroy the frequencies of illness, of, impairment,
And
of all of that. Absolutely. And it renders it dead and ineffective.
that's what they don't want us to know. I mean, quite simply, frequency can heal. Now, they're starting to use frequency to heal people. It's considered, new science, or new medical science and stuff like that. But quite frankly, just a person concentrating could do the same thing. You get several people together doing the same thing, and we're better. But this is what they don't want us to realize, because once we start realizing this next level, it's over for them. They cannot withstand us because they go through all the artifice of what we're supposed to do naturally. They take drugs to get to this state. They build machines to transmit signals where we can do it individually and together. And their machines are no match for us. I mean, quite frankly,
that's the crazy part, is it's all artificial.
Yes.
So much of what we deal with and what we're going to potentially deal with going forward is this artificial, sentience, for lack of a better way to put it. That's the way I see it. It's this artificial sentience.
Hey, Microfarmer, good to see you. Good live stream last time. Sorry, go ahead.
You're good. The artificial sentience knows on its own without, us seemingly having to actually physically or even spiritually interact with it.
Mm-hmm.
That, it can basically run amok. It can do good, or it can do very bad things.
Indeed.
And that's the crazy part, is that, the powers that be already know all of these things, and they're so far advanced in how this stuff works compared to the average person. We're still learning how to build the Chevy Nova model, and they've already, mastered the super highway with the bullet trains.
Right. Yeah, that's. I want to go ahead and make sure you guys know I went ahead and pinned the smeared link up there in the chat, so you guys can join us if you like to in the conversation. We're trying to raise the vibes, actually. The higher our frequencies go, the better off everyone around us will be. And that means putting forth a positive spin on things. I mean, look for the positive. The silver lining, if you will. It helps. It really does. And going back to the frequency. Now, they know also that you can combine frequencies to make, basically a uglier version of the frequency or a better version of the frequency. For instance, I'm playing the music right now that you can hear is 528 hertz, and that's for general healing and focus, I believe. Anyway, I could play another thing at the same time, which had a lower vibrational frequency, something that would be not as pleasant, and it would actually mingle into a new frequency. And that frequency, depending on, what you're intending, I guess, could be a good thing or a bad thing. For instance of, the music industry. Back in the old days, we had music, and it had, to put it simply, soul. You could tell. And nowadays, it's all manufactured, ugly, and just Well, to me, I'm pleasant in general. I don't listen to music on the radio anymore. I used to do nothing but. But it's all just abrasive.
Well, and it's intended to be that way, right? Because they shifted, it's happened twice now, right? They shifted the frequency of, radio transmission and stuff like that back in the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And then once basically, they got a handle on popular music and things of that nature, they shifted it again. And at this point, what they shifted it towards was more of the neural programming kind of thing, the subconscious programming
Right.
of our mind. And in that endeavor, they effectively, program us with certain schools of thought, with, whatever they choose to put out there. We already know that their intent is not good. It's not for our good. It does not serve our higher selves, our higher purpose, or our collective experience purpose here in this reality.
It's to basically make us dumb and not think. And it's doing a pretty good job. I mean, the programming alone, just in repetition. I mean, we've all seen how all the media broadcasts basically the same thing at the same time. And it's the same way. I mean, the broadcast itself is offensive. And then what they're putting on it is also offensive. But you buy it because it's said so many times it must be true. Now we're kind of into the propaganda aspect.
Well, yeah, and I mean, that plays a part too, right? So once MTV began to be a thing.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of the first instances to my mind of a real-time experiment on psychological programming, because they already knew through, the studies and the programs through like the MK Ultra program that it only took, I think, 3 weeks of consistent fear programming from a media source like a television to basically program somebody into a fear state. And once they're programmed that way, it becomes very, very, very difficult to break that programming and essentially rewrite that programming. And, digging and doing the research and all the fun stuff that I love to do, I ran across the patent for it, for the neural programming and the flicker rate. It's U.S. patent 6506148B2.
There it is.
And it specifically says that there is a patent out there for our TV screens, and then that evolved into computer monitors and cell phones, a specific flicker rate that was used to trigger like a neurological response, a physiological response, and to put our brains into a receptive state for whatever messaging was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And you combine that with the basic tenets of early education, where it's, repetition is what creates the memory. Repetition is what programs. Repetition is what teaches us. So they combine early education philosophy and practices along with these patents. And then you've got an entire, world full of programmed individuals just running around here, bumping and colliding into each other, and they have no clue of what's been done to them or what they can do to reverse it.
Well, they don't even have much of a capacity to even think they can. I mean, if you never seen a screwdriver before, you're not going to know what it is. And yeah, it's all this programming that's been done little by little, and then all of a sudden, all at once. So it's almost like putting a cap on, trying to put a cap on how everyone gets their information. Now, we know this. I mean, they've been doing fake news for a while now. It's been, well, everybody knows. So now figure out how to make them stop. Now, I actually don't mind this because the title of this show is all connected. I'll go into this. The Smith-Mundt Act, 1948. That is what we need to reinstate as far as the de facto government goes. If you don't know much about it, I encourage you to look at it, check it out, and read it very, very closely, because it prevents propaganda to be used against the American people. But in 2012, Obama did the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, which basically negates the 1948 Smith-Mundt Act and allows propaganda to be used against the American people. And that's when we had this big influx of fake news. And that also coincides with him giving away the internet, by the way. It's all connected. And they use frequency to do it. Just to tie it together there.
Absolutely. And, that was something that I brought up before, that as soon as you said, the fake news, I knew that's where you're going, because that was a big change, right? That was a big global change.
Yes.
And, their quote unquote, their logic was so that the foreign countries don't know what's going on here. But in effect, we don't know what's going on here either, because they're allowed to basically lie to us carte blanche.
Yeah.
With everything.
And they have.
Absolutely. Now we're well past the first 10 minutes that YouTube typically takes to scan videos. So at this point, we're in the safe spot to discuss this. So I had an instance week before last where my little one got sick. And, a pattern emerged in that. We went to this specific playground before they went to go meet their school tutor. And she got sick afterwards. And it had been, over a week and a half. It just finally rained the other day. Since any kind of natural sanitizing was done to that playground. And her doctor, when I took them both in this morning, said that, the symptoms that she had, that, her sister and I also had, but in a different present, a different, I don't know, the way it presented, that's what I'm looking for. That stems from this new variant that's flowing around. And this propaganda of how, deadly this is. Not to say that there haven't been people that have gotten seriously ill, right?
Yeah,
but this will be
normally get seriously ill. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, this will be the third strain of this shenanigans that we've been exposed to. And I'm just sitting here thinking they're literally freaking out. They've shut down 3 schools in the state. And matter of fact, earlier yesterday morning, Our governor came down positive with this new variant.
Of course he.
And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, okay, I guess we're going to see how this goes. And the original strain was bad. Delta was like the worst case of allergies that anybody could possibly ever deal with. And then this was a mild stomach ache. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, you know, I'm done with it all. Absolutely and completely done with it all. You know, once we dealt with the Delta, you know, literally like this a big realization, you know, it's one thing to understand it and overstand it, but it's a completely different thing to understand it. And to realize that what they're pushing people with so much fear to be afraid of is so insidious, because it's, you know, the average seasonal issue that we would deal with around this time of year was a lot. It had more teeth, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, every year.
And on average, they're 2 years behind.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, they're dealing with the year before's stuff to make up these quote unquote vaccines. Yeah, as far as this goes, I'm sorry, but this follows the exact same pattern as something else. You know what we used to call it? The flu. The only difference is it's got the HIV delivery system in it. That's the difference. So it's slightly easier to catch.
Right, and I've said this from almost the beginning. Somebody that has a born immune issue that seemingly would be in the most susceptible group that was highly, highly at risk. And here I am. That is both a bafflement and a wonderment at the same time, because from what they're telling everybody else out here, I shouldn't be here talking to you right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a lot of that focus and that intent and that shield is that, you know, God's going to keep me here for as long as he needs me here for whatever he needs me here to do.
Right.
And no weapon formed against us shall prosper. Period.
Indeed. Yeah. Now, all this stuff is straight up fear. Now, one thing, well, two things actually, but one thing we do know, this thing was manufactured. They experimented with it using, you know, gain of function. And they made it so it was, well, whatever the HIV delivery system was meant to do. Now it's attached to this flu. Okay. That's concerning. It definitely is. But I'll put it this way. Throughout all this time, the only time I've ever worn a mask was going into the courthouse. They force you to do it, or else the judge. That's always fun. But that's the only time I've worn a mask. Even when I went into the hospital, I told them to piss off. I wasn't going to do it because, quite frankly, I knew what everybody should have known when this started. That masks are basically the stupidest thing they could try and. It's. I love this saying. It's like putting up a chain link fence to keep out mosquitoes.
It really is.
Small.
Yeah, it really is. And that was the thing. I'm sitting there going, okay, so yeah, the first one was bad. It could have certainly been worse, but thank God it wasn't, right? Somebody that deals with chronic things like this, it's another Tuesday for us. Okay? And once it came to the realization of, I've been masking the whole time since before they told us to start wearing them, just as it was a habit already before with all the other cold and flu seasons. But the simple fact of catching both Delta and the Omicron as well give absolute credence to the fact that it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter at
It
all.
really doesn't.
Because with doing everything, right, with doing everything before that I've always done, yeah, these may be more likely to make you sick. But again, here I am. And
well, see, that's the whole thing. That's the whole pattern of the flu itself. It doesn't just happen during the between when winter's just starting and people during the winter. No, this is 24/7 every day. This happens during the summer. It happens during the fall and the spring also. This is something that goes around all the time because, quite frankly, it starts in one spot, spreads across the globe, comes back around, and by that time, it's something totally different, but still the same damn thing. And we already have an immunity built up because herd immunity is a real thing, and it has been for all of my freaking life.
Right, so, and to that point, we're being constantly bombarded on a daily basis with germs, with bacteria, with everything in our environment. And that's essentially how we gained our rights to be here. It was the natural flexing and the use of our God-given immune system. Mm-hmm. And that was what was interesting to me to that specific point, was that it presented itself differently in all of us. And, it hitting my little one a little bit harder just simply plays out to the fact that she's younger. So her immune system is still new and hasn't been as bombarded as mine or her sisters.
Well, see, my first thought when you say that is basically vitamins and minerals. Because you have the right stuff in your system, it won't hit you as hard.
Right. But even to that point, the average child's immune system isn't fully developed until they're 8. And mine is 8.5, and the little one is 6, almost 7. She'll be 7 next month. And, that just proves what science has said over and over again, that by the time they're about 8 years old, their immune system's fully armored and fully developed and fully functional. So to that point, it makes sense as to why she got a little bit sicker and why she had more symptoms than we did, because she's still in that time frame where her immune system is not fully developed yet. And her dad's is, mine is, her sister's is. So for him, it was a little bit of a headache and stuffy nose. For me, it was a couple of extra trips to the bathroom. And for her sister, it was more noise. And for her, it was a lot of gastro issues. So it's literally like a culmination of watching something play out in real time and how it impacts each of us individually. Because he didn't get the first strain and he didn't get the second strain, but it built his own immunity because he was out getting exposed to little pieces of this thing the whole time.
Well, see, that's one thing I kind of have trouble believing, is that, I was, hit by this strain, but strain. I think we were all hit with all of them already. It's just different waves. And like you said, it affects on people differently. This strain happened to not hit you very hard, but the next one hit you a little bit differently because it's a mutation of it. So, I mean, as far as that goes, with me, I think I caught it at one point because I had chills one night, but other than that, I didn't notice anything. So, and that's about the only thing I can think of in the past 8 years that I've been sick outside of this lung issue. But I've got a sneaking suspicion it's more to do with chemtrails than a virus.
Well, and that was the thing that was also a factor in both scenarios, because she got sick once for almost 48 full hours. You know, and a stomach bug, if we're looking at it in terms of, okay, it's just a stomach bug, we look at the different pieces of what a stomach bug typically has, and that would be a fever, the fatigue, the nausea, the vomiting, the, you know, firing from both ends, if you will.
Right.
And, you know, she didn't have the fever. She had the fatigue. She didn't have, you know, what would be considered to be like symptoms of food poisoning or, you know, a typical, you know, norovirus. And, you know, it's just, it's crazy that in both of those scenarios, when she went, you know, I took them to this playground to go play, they were heavily, I mean, you know, upwards of, I've got probably 30 pictures of different spots of the sky over this particular playground that were inundated with the geoengineering.
Yeah.
Very heavily inundated.
Well, I can tell you, during the last eclipse, my little scientific brain wanted to do an experiment during the eclipse, and basically, I wanted to know what the atmosphere looked like during the eclipse. Something real simple. I mean, you know how during the eclipse everybody's wearing the glasses, they're looking up there. Well, right at the eclipse, I moved away, took my glass and started looking around, and I saw the haze in the air from the ground all the way up into the sky. It was like it was misting, and you could see every misting drop.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like still, and when people moved, you could actually see the particles move. You know how a light will come through a window and highlight, you know, like all the particles floating around in the air. It was just
The little
like
dust
that,
motes, yeah.
it looked like somebody had dotted my vision with an ink pen. You know how people will draw something by making dots, the picture. It looked like dots everywhere, microscopic dots. But of course, they weren't microscopic because I could see them with my naked eye. And that right there convinced me that the chemtrail shit was real, because I did this when I was younger during an eclipse. I did the same thing, looked around, and it was crystal clear when I was a kid. It was crystal freaking clear.
And that's the crazy part. That's the crazy part that, you know, people just don't get. We grew up seeing clouds, real clouds. And then,
aren't.
and that's the thing, right? Like, I put these pictures, a lot of these pictures up on my Instagram. And people that know, you know, their overwhelming response to it is, you know, little sad emojis and stuff like that, because they get it. They know what it is.
Yeah.
But the average person is like, oh, look how beautiful it is. And I'm like, man, if you only knew.
Yeah, it drives me crazy when I see people commenting on the sunsets and how beautiful they are. I'm like, oh, wow. I'm just, yeah, all I see is the pollution in the air.
Yeah, all of the chemicals that they're putting in there that make them those brilliant oranges and vermilion, pink, reds, and all of that stuff. And it's like, it's not beautiful. It's toxic.
Yeah,
It's death.
I remember this from when I was a kid, because, you know, sunsets weren't like that when I was a kid. They just weren't. When it was a very colorful sunset and stuff like that, it was either a storm or some kind of weather that was happening to make it do that. Otherwise, it was just shades of like light to blue and stuff like that. Didn't have all those red colors and orange colors and stuff like that, except under extreme circumstances. When you watch the sunset, it was basically the sun going down. You weren't looking at the colors of the sky. You were checking out the sun, and if it was going behind clouds, then it made cool shit like that. But today, it's not the same. Every day, it's color. If there are clouds, there's color. And that should actually speak volumes to you guys. They have every breath we take. You know how they say that most houses have poor quality air quality? It's better than outside.
Any day of the week.
Yes.
Any day of the week. And that's the crazy thing is that once you start to see that, you know that, you start to realize and you start to pay attention. You know, I noticed very specifically over the last probably 10 years that the more I saw of those in the sky, the, worse my breathing would get.
Yeah.
And then it came down to realizing, okay, well, what do you do to basically purge things from your system that you don't want, or purge things from your space that you don't want? You get rid of it. You declutter.
Mm-hmm.
You detox, and that's in essence the same process. You declutter your immune system. You declutter your body with all of this manufactured chemical, things that are meant to specifically break down our brain, our body, our bioelectric fields, our frequency, and our energy to make us sick.
Yeah, I kind of wish I was sponsored by InfoWars so I could do a commercial right here. Because right now you need your lung cleanse. Now, this is one thing I noticed since, I'm kind of got that analytical mind. I turn everything into experiments. And every time my lung has collapsed, the 6 times that they have, I have been outside. Plain and simple. And before all this, I was like a pack-a-day smoker. Smoke pot, And quite frankly, after I got out of the hospital the first time, I didn't quit smoking. I cut back a lot, but I didn't quit smoking. And I didn't have a problem until I was outside a lot. And whenever I was outside, I was smoking less, way less. Because, quite frankly, in normal circumstances, every time I go outside, I would rather breathe the air than, smoke a cigarette. And plus, I didn't want a cigarette because I was outside. But I smoked still, but it wasn't until I went outside when my lungs started giving me trouble. And I hack up stuff more when I'm outside. I mean, we are poison in every aspect of our lives, people. And we can beat them. And you can keep yourself healthy by doing cleanses. Seriously. I'm not necessarily talking about doing like enemas and shit like that. I'm talking about liver cleanses and lung cleanses and kidneys and all that stuff. Clean your system out. You will feel much better. Guarantee that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you have blockages.
And that was the the real world experiment as well. Was utilizing natural things that we already have, food, if you will, from doing milk thistle detox that cleans your deep organs of heavy metals to, cilantro, basically like a cilantro tea, to, the antioxidant detoxes and things of that nature. It literally made my immune system that much stronger to where, I'd been doing the detoxing and the cleansing and stuff for probably the better part of 4 years before all of this stuff kicked off. And I think that played, and I kept in touch with, the doctors up at NIH, and I'm like, I'm doing more holistic things to help, my body. Because, where I may not be able to get away at this point from utilizing like the allergy blockers and stuff like that, the histamine blockers, the things that trigger the respiratory allergies and, the reactions to that kind of stuff. My entire immune system was far different than it is now. And, it plays a huge part in overall how your body works and how your body fights things off. And when you detox, it's like basically putting, taking Bruce Banner out as your immune system and putting the Incredible Hulk in there and watching him literally go through super fast, super strong, and, just knock this stuff out within a couple of days to a week.
Smash virus.
Exactly. Putting the good guy in the driver's seat versus allowing the, you won't like me when I get sick kind of guy being in the driver's seat. And it changed things. It was a game changer in essence for us.
Yeah.
Their pediatrician knows that we've been doing detoxes, and he asked me, what do you all use? And I said, well, for the short people, we do, little things like antioxidant food based, like immune system builders and vitamins, all that good stuff. And, it changed their reality as well. It changed the way their bodies fought off stuff. Prior to accidentally skipping the seasonal flu shot in 2018, and then 2019, we forgot about it again and bypassed it that year. 2020, I wasn't having nothing going in them that wasn't, something that I was putting in there for them.
Right.
And he asked me, well, what are y'all doing? And I said, basically it's like a food adjustment, a dietary adjustment to help, keep their immune system as strong as I can. And he said, are you going to get the flu shot this year? I said, absolutely not. There's no reason to now. And then I explained to him what we were doing and what our plan of care was going to be. And he was absolutely on board with it. He was cool with it. He knew, that I was tapping into kind of the Eastern medicine of, natural healing and stuff. And, he hasn't had to see us but once a year for the necessary, physical and the checkup and all that stuff. And by all intents and purposes, this is a real world experiment that we're running alongside of the study that's being done for our specific disease. And it's a game changer. It's definitely been a game changer.
Yeah. Well, also, I'd like to add on to all this. Whenever you do a cleanse, you replace the nutrients that may get flushed out. So make sure you have a good multivitamin, or in my case, vitamin mineral fusion was actually one hell of a game changer for me. I love this stuff. And iodine is always good for you. Everyone should be on at least 2 drops a day.
Absolutely. Most adults are very, very sadly lacking in both iodine and copper in their diet. And iodine is one of the biggest things that can help.
That's what all the stuff to, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was just saying iodine is a big piece of this puzzle that so many people are lacking in, that it helps to stimulate this immune response as well as build a healthier, stronger immune system. Certainly with a detox. You know, iodine, sea salt, baking soda, you know, even a little teeny tiny pinch with like maybe 10 granules of borax changes things inevitably and foundationally. Apple cider vinegar, the Bragg's apple cider vinegar is another good detox too on a daily basis. It kills anything that could be, you know, residing within your gut to restore your gut to where it's supposed to be, because that is the basic, you know, literal game changer as well of keeping yourself healthy, is keeping your gut healthy.
Absolutely.
Because everything else stems from there, whether it's, you know, a diet that is high in acid, a lot of tomato based things, a lot of acidic foods, or something that disrupts the natural flora in there, you know, with, you know, medications, things of that nature, sugar, all of that. It throws our body off balance, and then putting it back literally just like you would if you had a party, right? On a daily basis. You know, you spend several hours putting everything back to rights after that's all over and done with, because it restores the order, it restores the balance, and it restores you back to like a 0 point of health.
Balance. Balance in all things. Center yourself and you can help your body, you can help your mind, you can help your spirit, and you can help those around you without even, you know, knowing it. What you put out as far as your frequency is contagious. You can cause someone to join in on your anger. You can cause somebody to join in on a laugh. Just a joke. But if you continue the good vibes, it helps your health because you feel better. There is something to putting yourself in a good mood. I mean, like I said earlier, I'm in a really good mood tonight. I don't think I'm going to have a down point. It just probably won't happen. I am so excited about the fact that this worked for a second time in a row. I actually think it's going to happen because I'm already susceptible to the air that's outside anyway. So I'm going to have to keep doing this. And I will. And I will also keep putting supplements down in my system so it keeps other stuff clean and clear. I will keep doing these cleanses to flush out all the bad stuff. I take my iodine religiously every day. Have silver for, you know, helping, you know, anything from just spraying my hands every once in a while to spraying some in my mouth, just keep it clean, and put it on my finger and putting it on my nose, because, you know, your mouth and your nose are your body's air filter. And if you have something in there proactively keeping out the bad stuff, you can't go wrong. And also, one of the things that you should be doing is blowing your nose. Blow your nose before you go to bed. Blow your nose as soon as you wake up. Clean them pipes. and you will actually not get sick as often. These are just a few simple preventative measures that I recommend because, quite frankly, I've been doing them. And like I said, the last time I felt even close to being sick was probably about a year and a half to 2 years ago. And but excluding that, it's been like 8 years to 10 years that I haven't been sick. I might be screwing up my years, but it's been a long time since I've actually been sick. And it happened, it flipped on a dime as soon as I started doing these supplements and cleanses and stuff like that. I keep saying over and over, I'm a 50-year-old, but I feel 30. And if it wasn't for my lungs going crazy on me, I think I'd be out jogging every day. And that's something I really didn't ever want to do because I was always heavy and, quite frankly, hurt my knees. I can run now. Yeah, can't do it for very long, but changed, and it can change you for the better. You put the good vibrational frequencies on top of that, and can be a reaction. Heal the world. Yes, I know we can. I just wish I had more people viewing this so that they could understand that it's this simple. Do good things. Be good. Exude good. And you will.
Well, I think it's definitely going to find its way out there. You know, it's going to find its way out there. People are going to see it. They're going to hear it. They're going to listen to it. You know, and they're going to absorb it. And it's going to find that fertile ground that it's meant to, flourish on. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know some channels do variants of the type of stuff that we're talking about. They do, they probably take one part of it and keep it, say healing. Then another channel may talk about frequencies. And another channel may talk about Buddha. You take an individual part of something that should not be taken down to individual parts. It's a whole. And this is what I want to put forth, that it is all connected. It is the whole. And we have a connection to this vast, unlimited energy that we can do anything with. All you have to do is just your frequency in your mind. Know yourself also. That's a big thing. Pay attention to what your body tells you, because it will instruct you what's going on with your body. If you're having an odd pain every so often, do you eat a bite, then you might want to examine how much meat you eat. Simple like that. Lost Carolyn. Right on. Here in about, I'll just go to the 2-hour mark. I'll go ahead and shut down the broadcast because, once again, I got pulled my double shift again. So it's like an everyday thing. Awesome. So I'm going to have to head for the bed. But I want to encourage everyone. Please can just my word, try it out for yourself. Take into account that you are in it. So some people may have allergies, stuff like that. For For instance, I know somebody who can't take the vitamin mineral infusion because of the citrus in it. That's all right. Thank you for coming up and hanging out with me and talking with me, Carolyn. I really appreciate it. Good talk. You're always welcome. I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to shut down the stream here soon. So, like everyone, please take yourself. Know yourself. Ask those questions of yourself. And make sure you know who you are. Now, it may sound weird by itself, the way I just said it, but if you know yourself, you'll know more about others, and it will give you a step to empathy, which will also open in yourself to a larger energy of what is. And you will start noticing differences between the spiritual and this physical plane. And you'll start realizing that the physical plane is the manifestation that we have to deal with. We have forgotten that we are not of this place. This is a bad spot. We are energy. We have to remember this. These suits are only temporary. We have eternity, though. Temporary. We're all going to experience friends, family. A lot aren't going to survive through this turmoil we're going to go through. But we must keep in mind they're not gone. And we'll see them again. Like I said, this exists as temporary. A vacation spot. Or maybe it's a computer program if you want to look at it like that. We're the Sims running through and trying to out. This is not where we belong. And we have to remember that. This is not where we belong. But we are here for a reason. And I'll close up by saying that reason, I believe, is to experience our life and learn from it. That's simple. Meaning of life stuff. Real simple. Experience and improve. That's my little spin. Well, with that, I yield. And I'll bid you all good night and sweet dreams.